Kia ora, I'm Rosey Nathan. I am the Head of Career Programs and Partnerships at the Blues Charitable Trust, and I am Principal and Clarity Partner of Intent Plus Purpose, a consulting firm that helps with skills matrices and board appointments. I am also on the board for Depot, a fantastic art organisation in Devonport, and actively involved in mentoring some fantastic board members.
So today we're going to talk about emerging governance trends.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go.
Hi, welcome to Governance Bites. My name is Mark Banicevich, and as you just heard today, I have the pleasure of spending time with Rosey Nathan. Rosey, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Our first question on emerging governance trends, what are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing in governance?
Yeah, I think that in terms of those trends, it does differ depending on the level of governance. So I've been pretty lucky to be involved with people on boards and be on different types of boards, from councils, advisory, not-for-profits, and then up to larger commercial organisations. So the emerging trends are focused more on what is happening with technology and the information that is provided to boards and kind of the consumption of that, because the nature of how board packs are being received and how they're being consumed and how they're being discussed, and then the decisions from that, that is moving at varying paces across different types of boards. So I think that's a trend that is also very impactful organisationally and operationally. Yeah.
Right. Yes, I guess in your space where you are at the moment, which is associated with sport, one of the things that's happened over the last 20 or 30 years in New Zealand is, I think Sport New Zealand has done an amazing job elevating governance in sports around the country. And I think we're probably ahead of many countries around the world with the quality of our governance, particularly in the major sports. And it's filtering down to minor sports as well, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. And I think that because of that focus, it just helps to rise the tide in maybe other niche sectors of board consideration and capabilities, so they can see what best practice developing in a niche industry or type or field looks like, and how they can apply that into their own industry and area and boards.
Absolutely. Is there anywhere you think that boards are overestimating their readiness?
Yes, I think there are probably a few areas, but certainly in the area of technology and the utilisation of that across the board and across organisations. So they will receive a lot of information. The thing is, you're getting board packs that are summarised. So where is the bias that's happening with the view, and where is that being challenged before boards consume this information and then have their own decisions, discussions, and strategy recommendations? So I think there's lots of overestimating that they have a full picture, and that context is always really difficult, and that's a very difficult thing to ensure that you can get full context of, because we do know that people on boards are very busy people as well. But what can you challenge?
Yes, and trying to give them the right depth of information in the shortest possible board paper. No one really wants to read a 300-page board pack for a board meeting, right?
It's so hard to get that balance,
It is. Do you think risk registers are keeping up with these emerging trends?
No, I think that the speed in which organisations are moving, and the speed at which decisions are required, and the speed at which risk can come at us is exponentially faster than it has ever been. And because of technology, things like that risk, and that could be reputational, brand, it doesn't necessarily have to happen all at once. These can be areas of creep. So ensuring that you're looking at that from a wider perspective, I think really, really helps.
Yes. Do you think boards are moving fast enough to upskill themselves, or are they relying too much on management, too much on advisors?
Yeah. I mean, I know some amazing board members, and certainly I try to ensure that I'm upskilling in ways that are relevant to those that I'm involved in and advise with. But it's important to have that relevance in the area that you can best support on that board.
Yes.
So I think that's worth a check-in across the entirety of the board. Like, how often are you checking skills alignment with where the organisation is moving, and have there been any changes there?
Yes.
Because these gaps can arise in quite a short period of time, and if you have longer terms particularly, or areas of expertise, is that experience becoming outdated with where the market's moving? That's a really difficult space.
Another question really around the upskilling of board members themselves and the ongoing training. We don't actually have technically a profession for directors which requires any ongoing training. So it's up to the individual directors or the boards themselves to say, what are you doing to continually learn and get better at how you can support this entity. I've had a good conversation with that with Dr. Dennis Mowbray about that a couple of years ago, about this whole concept of what a profession is and whether directors are actually a profession, and that was one of the key elements. How well do you think boards have adapted to technology risks? You've got cybersecurity risks, you've got data governance, you've got artificial intelligence hitting us very quickly.
Yeah, it's such a difficult one. And I think the problem that we have on boards, generally speaking, is you will have a sector of the board that is not aligned with tech particularly, or decide that that's not their area of expertise, and so they will leave that to other people. Right. And then you have a sector of the board that is very tech aligned, but then they also have their own personal preferences of what that looks like, and how they use that across their own professions, that they will then, because of that comfort, they will bring that view into the board. So again, it's about widening that view, but I think we need to be lifting everybody on the board to a base level of technology that's relevant for the industry and the organisation.
Yes. Do you think digital literacy is now a baseline, that everyone should have it? The same way financial literacy needs to be, right?
Yeah. I think there is definitely, I do personally, to achieve that though is quite difficult, because you don't want to discard experience in other ways, so that shouldn't be a singular. And I think that when I work with developing skills matrices for senior leaders or boards or those types of councils, what it does look at is where is the value across the entirety of the board, and do you have enough percentage balance to ensure that you can still have robust conversations around what's important for digital literacy.
Yeah, and the comparison to financial literacy is probably a good one too, because not everyone that comes to a board is an accountant, hopefully. But everyone needs to have some understanding of what a balance sheet and a profit and loss account looks like, so they can make judgments and stuff and challenge what's going on in the business. And digital competency needs to work the same way, that everyone has that baseline understanding. And I just kind of wonder what that baseline understanding needs to look like. How much they need to know about cybersecurity and the risks associated with it, and data and privacy, and emerging trends like artificial intelligence, and how that becomes, it's essentially that those sorts of tools now are just going to become a requirement to be in business, aren't they? So the board's got to know something.
I think that's the right question. If financial literacy has profit and loss and a balance sheet, and that's the minimal standard, and you do have other board members who support those that aren't necessarily as financially literate, what is the baseline? What can we put together from a digital understanding perspective? But it's moving so fast. That's the difficulty. Like, we know what a balance sheet and a profit and loss does, and it performs in the same way. So what would that look like? And that needs to be more industry specific too.
Yes, it does.
Lots of work for everybody there.
It certainly is, And you mentioned before the volume of information, and also misinformation. What risk does this pose to boards and entities?
I think we see it also in our wider world at the moment. So this misinformation leads to judgment being made on
the wrong information,
completely wrong context, risk, possibility, opportunity. So when you wrap that all together, it's just, how has this information been clarified? What was the intent of it being delivered? How does a summary really perform under the complete context? the intent, I think, with most organisations and to their boards and for the boards is not around misinformation, it is about volume.
Yes.
But it can creep in. So it's just something to be aware of, I think, in this day and age, because we are so prompt to look at pieces of data we receive and not have bandwidth to investigate further,
Yes.
Particularly at board levels. So that's not necessarily misinformation with poor intent, but just as it's received.
Yes, and so that's changed the nature of reputational risk too in the board, hasn't it? And how do you think that is then changed as a result of this risk of misinformation together with voluminous information?
I think it should be driving deeper and more meaningful conversations on the board.
Yes.
And collaborative challenge instead of group thinking. So there needs to be a great relationship across the board where, you can poke at some of those holes or really question. And this is the importance of that transferable skill when we talked about upskilling. Everybody is growing within their own businesses and organisations and being exposed to different things. So that all needs to be brought to the table. And no matter how small something might look, if it feels like it's out of place, it needs to be.
And it also highlights the importance of a breadth of skills, a diversity of thinking and background and things on the board.
Yes.
Yes, the importance of the skills matrix, which I think we'll talk about another time. One final question for you. What advice would you give to a first-time director?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, just trust your own instincts as well, and really try to understand what the process is within this board, and look to others for what's been successful and what hasn't been successful and why. So a little bit of kind of, previous review of those successes and challenges, and then future gazing of, well, where can I add the most impact? Like knowing part of that space and leaning into those areas with confidence that you have. Yeah.
Rosey, that's been a really great conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you next episode. Thank you for watching this episode of Governance Bites. We have more episodes on YouTube and your favourite podcast channel, where I interview directors and experts on various topics relating to boards of directors and governance. We'd love to see you back, and please like, subscribe, and share the videos and podcasts.